sleepyheads, get up, get up, get out of bed. Cheer up, the sun is red. Live, love, laugh and be happy. What if
Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly, which is of course powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Joining me for this week's Robin Pod is pod regular James Purling. We have got a host of people joining us for the Robin Pod. We've got Matt Turner from the Warrington Guardian giving us a perspective on our rivals on Friday night. Of course, we've got Keith's Corner. We've got Robin's Remembered. We've got Question Time. And we've got a whole host more to speak to you about on this week's Robin Pod Weekly. James, it's been a bit weird, hasn't it? Because we haven't got a game to talk about. We've had a week off. I'm sure the players have been relaxing, trying to take the mind off what's to come. How have you done it, James? What have you done with your free weekend?
Well, it's getting to the time of year when the garden needs sorting out. So Mrs. P got me to sort the garden out. And 3 trips to the tip, so it's a very exciting weekend off.
Yeah. I'm sure you'd much rather have a game to go.
I really would have done, yes.
It's an important job, isn't it, James, at this time of year? I mean, you're not the only one. We did a little grass cut back in the back garden and the front garden. And to be fair, with the rain that's come, James,
it's worth doing,
foresight, didn't we?
Yeah, foresight. Yeah, it's all done now. That's it. Can forget about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure the groundsman at Hull Kingston Rovers will have done the same thing, and I'm sure that pitch will be absolutely immaculate come kick-off on Friday night. So much to talk about, as always, on the Robin Pod. Let's start off with, though, the announcement of the Man of Steel shortlist. Most people won't be surprised to see that Mark Sneed's in there. Of course, Matt Duffy at Warrington. And, of course, Hull Kingston Rovers, Mikey Lewis. I mean, come on, James. It's got to be Mikey, hasn't it?
It's got to be.
Surely.
It's got to be. I think Sneed was quite a way ahead, wasn't he, when up till a few months ago, and then when it sort of went quiet. But I think the way that Mikey's been playing over the last few the last 10, 12 games or so, he's got to be in with a shout, and so thoroughly deserved to be even on the shortlist, and just shows how far the kids progressed.
Well, do you know what I was thinking about it, James? Because I mean, obviously, you look at the age of Duffy and Sneed in particular, the experience that them players have got. Don't forget Mikey Lewis, of course. He's a man. He is. He's gone through that period where he was sort of a little bit petulant and he was learning the game. But he's still a young player, isn't he? And the fact that he's on that shortlist is great credit to him. Let alone the fact that he might go on and win the award, because I'd love to see the list of previous award. Do you know what? Maybe I should have done this, shouldn't I? And maybe I should have done a bit of research, James, to see who the youngest winner of the Man of Steel award has ever been. Because I'm sure if Mikey Lewis does win it, I'm sure he'll be the youngest ever recipient of it. I can't think of anyone else since it was established who's won it, who will be younger than Mikey Lewis.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head either. Like I said, need to delve down into it. Did Tompkins win it when he was he ever won it? He might win it when he was younger.
While we keep talking, I'm going to Google it and see if I can try and find. But I still think if he's not the youngest winner, he will be one of the youngest winners if he does receive it. I mean, of course, the problem is, James, with the system. Obviously, it's like a points-based system. The every round, every game, players are awarded 3 players are awarded 3 points.
Yeah.
A player's awarded 2 points and the one's awarded 1 point, and then it tallies up. And then there's a cut-off point where they stop showing you what points players are awarded. But, I mean, Mikey Lewis, I think I said it on the last Robin Pod, he must have got man of the match 5, 6 games out of 7, especially in the you know, towards the back end of the season. I suppose the only thing I do think I think Duffy, you know, whatever you think of him, I do think he's had a good season. Sneyd looks to be the main competitor, doesn't he? And of course he's playing in a team where he stands out because he basically controls the team, doesn't he? You know, Salford don't win unless they're playing well. So it's easy because what happens is each game's watched by a former professional who then awards the points. So you can understand why Sneyd would get a lot of points, you know. But on the basis of Mikey Lewis's performances, he's in that category as well now. So I just think Lewis brings a bit of X factor to the competition. Sneyd, you know, let's be honest, he played for that lot. You know, I can understand why we don't like him. He is a decent player. You can't you can't get away from it. I think, you know, when the list came out today, I did think, you know, actually, you know, it's you can't argue with any of the players who've been shortlisted. You know, like I said, I think Duffy's had a really good season. You know, he looks dangerous every time he comes out from the back. And, you know, there was that break he made the other day against Saints. You know, just a sidestep, and he was 60, 70 yards up the pitch. But Sneyd, you know, he has, like I said, he has played for them lot. But if he plays well, Salford play well, and I thought it was interesting in the game against Leigh that they seemed to sort of control him a lot better. Didn't give him the opportunity to put any kicks in, and as a result, you know, Leigh went on to win. But like I say, you just look at the games Mikey's played over the last few games, and it's just there's something in the game where he's just been able to turn it. He's just been able to turn the game in Rover's favour, or, you know, just put us back in a game, takes us further out. Just that spark that just totally can demoralise the opposition and gives you that springboard to go on to win the game. He's just been absolutely superb. And, you know, we've spoken about this before. I think it's not just his attacking; it's his defence as well. You know, for you know, little guy, little kid, you know, little guy. I think he's really solid in defence. You know, he does have that all-round game. I mean, we obviously won't talk about his goal kicking, but we'll have to worry about the next year. But it's no, he's really deserved. And I think as well, James. Of course, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 has been nominated for Coach of the Year as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the Robin pod. But part of being Coach of the Year isn't just being sort of the figurehead of a team doing well. It is things like, there's no doubt, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 has made Mikey Lewis a better player. And I think that's where the Coach of the Year bit comes in as well. Now, that's probably why Eccles at London's probably been put into the shortlist, whether people agree with it or disagree with it. But part of being Coach of the Year is actually making the players better, not just the team, but individual players. And of course, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 has played the position that Michael Lewis is playing now. He understands, you know, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 played in a grand final. He's played for Wigan. He's played NRL, you know, and under his leadership, Michael Lewis has become a better player. And I think it'd be interesting to see. You know, who knows if Michael Lewis had been under a different coach, what would have happened? We'll never know. But 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 does seem, and if people have listened to the press conference Tyrone May did this week in preparation for this game, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔 seems to get the best out of the players who want to be under him. So there's a few players, isn't there, who've not necessarily fallen under him and not done what he wanted. And you know where they are, James, because they've been shipped out. They've gone.
Exactly. No, I think, you know, I think you're right. I think, you know, again, I think, you know, 𝗬𝗓𝗐𝗔's being shortlisted is, you know, again, it's thoroughly deserved. You can't finish second in Super League and then not be considered for that top position. And I think, just going back to last season, I think, wasn't there a time when sort of Mikey was a bit impetuous and is giving a few penalties away and just sort of getting a bit niggly and sort of not losing focus. And I think Peters, took him to one side, you know, gave him a talking to, and then from that moment on, he hasn't looked back. you know, and I think that's again a testament to the qualities that Peter has got as a coach. He seems to have that man management skills that knows how to knows when to put a metaphorical arm around a player, and also when to give them a kick at the backside when they need it. And that's what he just seems to get what motivates and what makes the players tick. And we're seeing it happen, the fruits of that this season.
Yeah, James, I'm on the official Super League website right now, right? And I've got a list of all the previous Man of Steel winners, right? And it goes back to, and this is my naivety, it goes back to 1977.
Wow.
Okay. And there's a Robin who's won it previously.
Yep.
So I didn't know it was.
Gavin Miller.
Yeah. Go on, give me the year.
86.
Yeah, there you go. Brilliant. Right, the first one was awarded in 77. Now, I'm looking at this list, and this is just a little bit of trivia for you. There's one player who's won it from a Cumbrian-based team.
Cumbrian-based team. Oh, God.
It's in the 80s.
Is that Mick Morgan?
Yes, it was.
Mick Morgan?
Yeah, and who was he playing for?
Carlisle.
Yes, it was. That is fantastic knowledge. That is brilliant. I tell you what, if there's a lot of people want to get that, there'll be a lot of people will. But if everyone would look to Whitehaven or but no, Carlisle, 1982. So looking through that list of players, though, James, when I was talking about potentially Michael Lewis being the youngest if he ever did receive it. I mean, if we work backwards, from 2023 backwards, Bevan French, Brodie Croft, Sam Tompkins, Paul McShane, Jackson Hastings, Ben Barber, Luke Gale, Danny Houghton, Zach Hardacre, Darryl Clark, Danny Brough, Sam Tompkins, Rangi Chase, Pat Richards, Brett Hodgson, James Graham, James Roby, Paul Wellens, Jamie Lyon, Andy Farrell, Jamie Peacock, Paul Sculthorpe, Sean Long, Adrian Vowles, Yessin Harris, James Lowes, Andy Farrell, Dennis Betts, blah, 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 blah. There's no one in that younger category as young as Michael Lewis is.
No, there's nobody that jumps out and says, yeah, they were young kids.
Yeah. So anyway, who knows? We'll see who gets it. I fully think Michael Lewis is deserving of it. What I liked about Michael Lewis when questioned upon it, I think it was at the awards ceremony, and subsequently when he was asked about playing for England, he's quite bullish, saying, well, no, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm putting the performances in. It's for people to take notice of that. And he's in sport, sports people often downplay things. We do in society, don't we? Yeah. You don't often big yourself up. You sort of play everything down. Whereas Michael Lewis, he hasn't bigged himself up, but what he's done is just say, no, I think I am playing well.
Yeah, well, he is. Why not? Big himself up, and he is. He can see that. And it is. It's great. He's got the confidence, and I know you sort of talk to read comments on online and social media about from other fans of other clubs, and just sort of say call him out, etc. But 90% of them would say, but we'd love him at our club. Yeah, and it's a typical halfback, and I think viewers of a certain vintage will remember the likes of Andy Gregory. He was that similar sort of player to Lewis. He got under people's skins, but he could do it. He could walk the talk. And that's what you need in a halfback. And he's just it's just great to see,
Yeah, and do you know what, James? I was thinking of it, and this isn't me looking through Rovers tinted spectacles. When we're talking about players and how we're growing the game and how young people watch the game. So, for example, my lad who's 8 loves Jude Bellingham, right? He wants a Jude Bellingham Real Madrid kit. He doesn't support Real Madrid, but he likes Jude Bellingham, right? Yeah. Mikey Lewis, for me, is a player who kids in Warrington, St Helens, Leeds, kids who will watch the game and go, God, I like that Mikey Lewis.
Yeah.
regardless of who he plays for. I think he's got that
exactly.
star quality because he's so young. He's relatable to younger players, younger supporters, and I really think he's got that star quality. And
he has.
I really hope
he has, and I think sort of is a sort of player that, if we look into the future in IMG and sort of developing the game, he's the sort of player that, the game should be, showcasing. There's lots of great players in the game, but he's one of them. And I think I go back to when he made his debut last year, and he got in his first appearance, and the post-match interview he was doing, he was so pumped about playing for England and score, doing well and getting the man of the match. It was like you could tell the emotion, and that's what it meant to him. And I think giving that emotion, people just meant to think, God, that's what it means. And it's so great to see, just pick what it meant for a young kid, from Hull to be able to play for England on that big stage and just make an impression, and he just showed what it meant for him. And I think that's the sort of thing that young, like you're like your son, they can look up to and say, Mikey did it, I can do it. Do you
know what, James? Great point. I think that England moment, that interview he did, that's when he became, I don't know, he really came to the attention of the nation, all rugby league supporting nation in this country. That's where he not necessarily because of he just got, he played really well and of course got man of the match, but it was them moments. They're the moments, as sad as it may be, or they're the moments that capture people who are peripheral supporters, peripheral watchers of the game, because it's raw emotion.
It is, going back even further than just back, when Italian 90, when Gascoigne got his second yellow card, and he was in tears, and that's when the Paul Gascoigne phenomenon really started from there, because people got that emotion, what it meant, and Mikey's got that, and it's great to see.
James, the Robins have brought a new kit out. Before we talk about that, though, let's go to the enigmatic Keith Pollard for Keith's Corner. Hello, Keith. Welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly. Once again, let's pick up from where we left off last time.
Righto, Johno. We're moving on now, what I'll call the beginning of the new generation, right? We're moving to 1959-60 season. They started off with 4 straight losses, right? And things weren't looking really good. In fact, half the pack on the last game at Featherstone that day never played again for Rovers. But then things improved. For the first time since 1930-31 season, Rovers won more games than they'd lost, finishing the league's top half. So good the club even gave the players £500 to share between them, which in 1930 was a lot of money. Amongst several new signings was Arthur Bunting, who went on to coach the club. This is obviously, we know what Arthur did, went on to coach the club before moving to the dark side, right? And went to coach, what they call them, 𝗀𝗆𝗆, and they got to Wembley. Unfortunately for Arthur, it was against the Robins. Oh yes, what was the score? 10-5, I think it was. Also, amongst the new boys was Len Clark, Terry Major, Rolly Moat, Davy Elliott and Peter Key, who were the 3 other halfbacks to try and pair up with Arthur Bunting. But having said that, despite having a stronger squad, things didn't seem to improve much on the field. Cyril Kellett was the established number 1, with Riley and Coulson holding the centre positions. Cliff Last, second row, joined from Leeds. Gordon Hackling, an ex-rugby union forward, which not a lot of people heard of, and Jim Jenkins with the second row pairing in on most occasions. Thanks to a nameless benefactor, the club purchased for £1,500 a block of land down Winchester Avenue, hoping that there was going to be the new ground, opposite the bar and pub, if you know where that is. It was the intention of building a new ground on it, and they'd just signed a new 3-year lease on Craven Park at an increased rental, which was one of the reasons why they was going to build their own ground. It was planned to take 3 years to build, but this dream didn't last long. And in 1960, the season opened with a decent start. with six wins in the first 9 games, one of them being against Hull FC. The first derby won in the last 13 attempts. Rovers finished 12th in the competition, but away form let them down with only 2 wins out of the 16 on the road. This was the season, should I say, Flash Flanagan made his debut, making 414 appearances for the Rovers, scoring 56 tries and 13 goals in his term here. Obviously, he became a cult hero with the Rovers fans. But on the other side of the river, he joined Hull FC in 1975, where he played 21 times for them. Along with Flash at Rovers, Harry Poole joined the club from Hunslet. Brian Tyson became irregular in the pack, but Poole's arrival saw the end of Last's career. He left to join Keighley. Bob Coverdale only missed 1 game at number 8. Skipper Jim Jenkins broke his arm and Harry Poole took over the captaincy and held that until he joined Leeds in 1965, when Rovers sold him for the same money that they paid for him. Former skipper Bill Riley left to join Dewsbury after playing 107 games and 23 tries. The club still made a profit without any income from Bowferry Park derbies. Had been drawn up to build a new £30,000 stadium on the Winchester Avenue. They'd already put lights on it and a small pavilion which was then used for training. But the clubs were trying to raise funds to build it, but were struggling. The RFL had appointed a special committee to look at the problem of the declining game, declining attendances, and they appointed a special subcommittee. Where have we seen that before? Another 64 years before they did it again. Then in 61-62, the influx of players from Fiji started coming through. Rochdale Hornets became the leaders, with several players coming in. Joe Lavola, Osi Daiwa and Mike Ratu. I played a few against some of these. Owen Ransom played for Rovers briefly in 2010. Rovers started the season with only 1 home win, but the first 6 away games resulted in wins. A great run of 17 consecutive wins between the 8th of November and the 24th of November produced the top 4 semi-final and Challenge Cup meetings, but due to injuries went down to Huddersfield in the semi. I'm not going to pick any outstanding players this week, but just like to mention that the club have been looking to be able to field a team with a settled side. Sewell Group at fullback, Terry Major, Brian Burwell, brother of Alan, in the centres. Bob Harris had taken over Graham Paul's spot, and Davey Elliott and Arthur Buncher were now the regular halfbacks. Just talking about Brian Coulson, he left the club after scoring 72 tries in 142 games. And I don't know if people remember, but while he was at the one training session, somebody kicked the ball and it hit the goalpost, and one of the cones, decorative things, fell and hit him on top of the head. Luckily, he was not hurt, but he's leaving open the way for another Devonshire player to come in from Barnstable, Mike Blackmore, big, robust, fast winger. And then he joined Ted Bonner, and John Taylor and Harry Poole in the back 3. Jim Drake had come from Hull FC, but unfortunately, Alvin Ackley had had a bad run of injuries and left after he'd made a hell of a difference to the club. A lot of people said he was returning for the new beginning, and that was his final game, and he at Wakefield, and he left. So that's it for that period, lads.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
There you go. All I was saying is, James, Keith, I'm sure you're listening. So thank you for whipping everybody into a frenzy with a look back at Rovers history, which is, of course, very important. So thank you very much. James, Warrington on Friday night. Like we've already talked about, it's been a little bit weird, hasn't it? Because we have the preliminary playoff games, and we've been sort of spectators in that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know whether I'd want the Robins to be playing, whether I'm glad that they've had the week off. of course, the Robins are a different beast altogether at the moment, aren't they? And the focus and everything that's going on with Willie Peters and how he's got this side playing such fantastic rugby league and buying into what he's doing. You know, it's just felt a little bit weird since the game against Leeds and to where we are now. I feel a bit lost almost waiting for Friday night's game.
Yeah, it is. It just seemed a really weird feeling, just sort of seeing, you know, the other teams knocking 7 bells out of each other, knowing we've got that week off, and just thinking, yeah, what's going to happen when we actually do come back? You know, get back on the pitch. And I think it's interesting. You look at that week off, and you think, oh, it's a great thing, and you know, a chance to recharge. And when you think about it, we've probably been playing sort of, I suppose, more or less effectively knockout football since the beginning of August, when we went to since last time when we played Warrington away. You know, I think every game since then has been one of those where, you know, it's key that we perform and win, and to certainly have that intensity and that that intensity sort of not there. Like I say, it's a weird feeling. But I think in the Leeds game, I think it probably showed in that first half that perhaps did need a break. You know, it seemed a bit clunky and didn't seem that as much energy as they've had in the past. So perhaps it has come at the right time. But then you look at it and you're thinking, well, if you have that week off, do you lose that momentum and that sort of bit of sharpness? You know, look at Salford. You know, it's their decision to rest all those players. But when they came back against Lee, you know, they just went in the game. They had nothing to offer in attack. You know, fair credit to Lee, but you know, Salford just didn't really perform. And you're thinking, I hope that's not going to happen to Rovers. I'm sure it won't do, because I think, you know, they've come this far, and they're not going to want to give it away, you know, without leaving everything on that pitch on Friday night.
Yeah, James, the Robins have released their alternative jersey for next season. The Ven kit, the purple violet shirt. Are you a fan? Do you like it?
I think it's a thing of beauty. I prefer it to the home kit. I've already, really? It's already on my hopefully been a good boy and be on my fan.
Have you put it on your list for Santa?
I have indeed, yeah. And Mrs. Purling's getting one as well.
Oh wow, there you go. Well, hopefully she's a good girl as well.
She is, yeah. Yeah, we're twinnies.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. I think it is. It's just like we've just got this knack of just, you know, pulling out, you know, real absolute stunners and kits. You know, I think you look back to the Diamonds one, to the Boilermakers one. You know, this year's, okay, I think the home one, I preferred the home one, but there's the stunners, and I think, you know, the fact that when the home kit came out, you know, they broke all records for retail sales, just shows that how important it is that we get it right, because it sort of then helps fund the future development of the club and gets money into the coffers to help building the squad.
Yeah. All I'll say is, James, based on both kits, and it's only my personal opinion, I'm looking forward to seeing the fair alternative jersey. Do you know what? I love the concept of the purple one, the away one. You know, I get it, I understand it. And do you know what as well? You know, it will sell. The home one will sell. I think they already had record sales, didn't they? It was 167% up on opening day sales compared to last year, which is incredible, isn't it? Because it's not as if this season's shirt's a bad one, is it? It's a good.
No, exactly.
So, you know, the fact sales are up. I'm not in the camp of where literally stick a Rovers badge on it and I'm going to buy it.
No.
I think some Rovers fans, let's be honest, they could introduce a bin bag with a Rovers badge on it. People be wearing it. Yeah. You know, let's be honest.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the pink one this year. You know, so I've not got that one. But you know, the purple one, I like it.
What I love what the club do though is throughout the course of the season, there is something that you will be able to buy that you will like, because of the range, the training wear, the shirts that they bring out. You know, the range of stuff. I love the Hawaiian stuff that they brought out. You know, the floral shirt and the t-shirt. You know, so there is always something coming out like you will be able to buy. So great credit to the club for what they've done with the merchandise and you know, that I think that's been the feature of the what's going on behind the scenes. That what they've learned to do is how they can maximise and get as much revenue out of the existing supporter base. And I think the next step now is how can they expand that supporter base? That comes with more seats, more opportunity for people to watch the club, introduce new supporters, which is why the East End extension is going up. And now it's not how can we get more out of the existing supporter base, how can we increase that supporter base? So they're very shrewd behind the scenes. And, you know, we are very fortunate. And I said it on the last Robin pod when Joe was on and we'd been to the awards ceremony. When you've got people like the Sewell Group on board, you know, and you've got people like that buying into the club and buying in not just into the club in terms of a corporate level, buying into the supporter base, buying into what it means to support Hull Kingston Rovers, what it means to the people who've invested, you know, years and years of their lives, but not just time, finance as well. So, you know, off the field, we're going to great places. And we're going to come on to hopefully where that might take us in terms of on the field. Before we do that, though, James, I caught with Steve Till for Robins Remembered. Steve, it's great to have you back on the Robin Pod Weekly for Robins Remembered. Who you got for us this week, please?
One of the best hookers ever to play for Rovers and one of the hardest, and that's David Watkinson, known to everybody as Watkie. Watkie was from York. He played for the youth amateur team in York, and he actually had four trial games as a trialist for Wakefield Trinity. Peter Fox was coach of Wakefield Trinity, and he noticed Watkie playing for youth and wanted to sign him. But they signed him as a trialist, and it was the Premiership trophy, which was the trophy for the top 8 teams after the regular season finished. And in fact, he laid on a try for Nick Morgan during one of the semi-finals. And I think Wakefield were beaten by St Helens, but Watkie had been noted and was ready to sign for Wakefield, but Peter Fox lost his job, so he didn't sign him, and Rovers signed him in 1977. 23rd of January 77, he played against Leeds, and Rovers won 25-9. And he played for 12 years. Scored 13 tries for the club and 3 drop goals. And his heritage number was 791. But there wasn't a tougher, more uncompromising player in that pack than Watkie. He led by example. And remember, it's the pack that went to Wembley and around that time. That was a big pack and a tough pack. But Watkie was among the toughest. He became captain in 1984, but he was a championship winner 3 times, Challenge Cup winner, John Player Trophy winner, Floodlit Trophy winner, Premiership winner, Yorkshire Cup winner. In fact, he was a winner all the time he was with Rovers. And he didn't mess about. I remember there was an incident, a scrum flare up in a Great Britain match against New Zealand, and I was in the middle of it, and no holds barred. It was Watkie, and that's the type of player he was. Tough. He gave way to nobody, but what a leader of Hull Kingston Rovers. As I say, heritage number 791.
James, I often jest with you, don't I, about the Robins Remembered. We've come into an era that you're more likely to remember. I mean, 𝗀𝗂𝗃, I mean, you know, when we look at hookers these days, what an unbelievable warrior, you know, like Steve said, just an enforcer, but not just an enforcer, a player with great all-round ability as well.
It was, and you know, Steve just really captured what 𝗀𝗂𝗃 was all about. You know, he was tough as teak. You know, he led by example. He was just a fantastic captain for the club as well. And you put it into context as well, that when he was captain around when we had the front row consisting of Broadhurst, 𝗀𝗂𝗃, and 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗏, and you think that was a hell of a front row. And it was a fantastic player. He was just great to watch. Gave us all every single game, and he was one of those players that I think opposition forwards probably feared. And that was a time, you know, obviously when it was sort of, shall we say, there was less rigid when it came to the more physical side of the game. And it's the sort of play you needed. And I think a lot of the victories that Rovers got over that time when he was there were down to his toughness and the willingness to never give up and just drag that team forward.
Yeah, and James, what I was going to say about that era as well is, don't forget as well, the hookers. I mean, modern day rugby league, hookers are number 9s protected a little bit more now, aren't they? They're almost like a halfback. So you know, back then though, no, you was almost.
Oh no, he was a hooker. That was it. Yeah, there was no, you know, it wasn't going to play anywhere else. You're never going to see him, you know, go, you know, do a stint at halfback, you know, like Jez does, but or even loose forward or anything like that. No, he was a hooker, and that's what it was. It was his job to plough down the middle, hook that ball out the scrum, and that's when that, you know, the old days when they had contested scrums as well, you know, and just basically tackle it. If it moved, tackle it, which he did.
Yeah, we've got obviously a huge game on Friday night, James. Before we bring in Matt from the Warrington Guardian, we've played Warrington, haven't we, 3 times already this season. I mean, that's still galling, that defeat at home, isn't it? That 22 points to 20 back in March. We then went to Warrington in May and lost 20 points to 8. Then we went in August and we won 22 points to 4. I don't know. When I look at the league table, Warrington have been the team closest to Rovers and Wigan, haven't they? You know, you discount the rest of the competition. Warrington have been that team who have challenged the Robins. And when I speak to Matt, you know, we mentioned the fact that we only finished 2 points above them. Their points difference is actually better than the Robins, but I think that's slightly skewed by the fact that they played Huddersfield and then London, their last 2 regular league fixtures. So, you know, if you hadn't played them then, I do think it'd have been different. But, you know, that's not Warrington's fault. But they've looked in decent nick, haven't they, this season, Warrington?
They have. And I think, you know, you've got to give, I think, a lot of credit to Sam Burgess and what he's done with the club. I think it's a brave decision for Warrington to appoint him as head coach. You know, not having had that sort of previous head coach experience, we obviously know the sort of quality of player that Sam Burgess was as a player. You know, he's sort of done it in Super League, he's done it in the NRL, he's done it at international level. So he was almost thinking, coming in, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be that longer term thing. He's going to come in, steady the ship after, you know, what's happened in the previous years with Daryl Powell and Steve Clark, and just sort of settle the ship. And maybe 2-3 years on, they'll be, you know, competing and rebuilding that team. But, you know, I think the fact he's done it this year is a, you know, testament to him. And I think they are a very dangerous team. I think they brought on some really good young players as well, and he's been able to get out the best of some of his established players as well. I mean, people like Danny Walker, you know, I've always rated, even when he's at Widnes days. You know, he's just been, you know, dream team player now, and you know, he's gone on to that's another level. But then you look at the games that we've played against them this year, and yeah, they have been close to us, but I look at those 2 games where they've beaten us, and you think those are the ones that Rovers got away from Rovers. They should have won them. Yeah, like
it was that middle one for me, James. The one.
Oh, yeah, there was 18-0 down after 10, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, weren't we? They just hadn't got off the coach. And by that time, it's going to be a hard job to pull back 18 points at the Halliwell Jones. The fact that we managed to get it was 18-10 in the end, it finished or something like that. Testament to Rovers to come back. But it was that first 15 minutes just absolutely killed us. I still go back to the home game as well. We should have won that. We had so many chances to win that, but we just blew it. But I think, both teams since that day have progressed, and I think both of them are worthy challenges to Wigan. Johno's gone. It's on my own now.
I'm back, don't we, James? Right. Before we talk about the Warrington game, James, in more detail, I caught with Matt Turner from the Warrington Guardian. So let's bring him on to listen to what he had to say. I don't know what happened then, James. My internet just went off. So
I think I discovered I'm not very good at filling.
Well, luckily it was just for a few seconds.
It went on forever, Chris. It went on forever.
It might have felt like that. So Matt Turner from the Warrington Guardian, it was a great conversation I had with him. He tells us a little bit more about Warrington Wolves. We chatted about what we can look forward to on Friday night, and we also talked about the manager coach of the season award. Matt, it's great to have you on the Robin Pod once again to get a bit of an insight into our opposition ahead of Friday's humdinger of a game. You'll be covering it for the Warrington Guardian. Warrington, of course, fresh from that semi-final victory. That playoff victory over St Helens. A mouth-watering encounter expected on Friday night.
Well, I think fresh might be the wrong word. It was certainly a brutal game. No quarter asked or given from either side. And Warrington just sort of came out the other side of it. But I think there'll be a lot of battered and bruised bodies. St Helens certainly turned up a lot better than people were expecting. But like I said, Warrington got the job done, and I'm sure the 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗏 players were sat on their couches or in whatever nice training camp they were at, and watching it all unfold and enjoying them battering the hell out of each other. But no, it should be a fantastic game. Yeah,
I suppose from a Robin's point of view, that game was probably what they wanted, wasn't it? Two teams going at it, hammer and tong, going into Golden Point. Like you said, a few battered and bruised bodies, and the intensity level of the game as well, Matt. I think we can't ignore that, can we? It was a really tough game. 100 mile an hour for the 80 minutes. And like you said, Saints, finally turned up this season and really did challenge Warrington.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's probably what Warrington needed, really, because sort of coming in the 3 games since they got beaten by Leigh in that game where Paul Vaughan was sent off, they faced a St Helens side that was probably at one of its lowest ebbs and didn't really threaten them. And then they had 2 blowout games against Huddersfield and London. So while they were coming in decent try-scoring form and having not conceded tries, you had to wonder sort of how far they'd really been pushed. But on Saturday, they really, really were pushed. They had to really dig deep to get the job done there. And while it may have taken a lot out of them physically, I think it's the kind of test that they needed, and they needed to know that in their own heads they could get through that kind of test, because they've kind of faltered when the heat's been put on them before this season. So the way they came through it, I think will give them a lot of heart.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned already there's a few battered bodies there, but as we record this, we don't know the squads yet for the game. But Sam Burgess has said that, or alluded to, it's pretty much a fully fit squad that is going to be able to choose from. And that is credit to the players. But I suppose as well that them players will be absolutely chomping at the bit to play in the game on Friday night. So even if they are carrying a knock, I'm sure they'll be putting their hands up to play come Friday night at Craven Park.
Oh, 100%. If you feel able to play at this stage of the season, you play. You you strap yourself up, you take your painkillers, and you just get on with it. I was talking to George Williams actually the other day, and he was saying exactly that. You know, the prize at the end of it is worth the sacrifice of playing injured for a couple of weeks. And I think if you ask any player in any side who's still left at this stage of the season, if you ask them, are you 100%? I think the vast majority of them will tell you no, they're not. And I think those that say they are probably kidding themselves. Everyone's battered and bruised. It's been a really brutal season. It's been a long slog, but they know they're in the home straight now, and that'll sort of make them go through the pain barrier. But no, in terms of the squad and its fitness, there's no fresh injuries. I'd be really surprised if any changes are made to the Warrington 17. There might be a few changes within it, but you know, there's a couple of season-long injuries that haven't been able to play for a few weeks. People like Lachlan Fitzgibbon, and going further back, Leon Hayes as well. But no, I think he'll pick from the same pool of players this week, and I'd be surprised if there's any difference to the 17.
Yeah, I mean, this is the fourth time that the Robins have played Wyre this season. Of course, they've gained 1 victory, lost 2, and you only have to look at the league table to see why Friday's game is so hard to predict in terms of which way it'll go. Only 2 points separated second and third spot. Warrington scoring 21 more points than the Robins and conceding 7 points fewer. I mean, it is almost neck and neck, isn't it? And Warrington have been the closest side to challenging Wigan and Rovers for that second and first spot in Super League. So when you try and this is why I think Robins fans, there's a little bit of nervousness, because when it comes to the crunch, you know, it is so hard to predict which way this game will go.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's the old adage, isn't it? You know, you can fit a grizzly paper between the two sides. They're that evenly matched, and I think the 3 games they've all been very tight. I mean, I know a couple of them sort of ended up in convincing scorelines at the Halliwell Jones Stadium either way, but the game at Craven Park was very tight, and you know, like you say, it shows in the table. You know, 2 points between them, pretty much the same points scored, pretty much the same points conceded. And OKR just finished that 2 points in front, so it is hard to predict. It's probably on paper, if you put the 2 teams on a neutral field, it's probably a 50-50 game. But I'm sure you guys will be hoping that the Craven Park atmosphere tips things in your favour, and it probably does in terms of the odds. Probably make OKR slight favourites, but you know, Warrington can go up there knowing that they can win there, albeit you know it was back in round 4, and both teams have come a long way since then. But psychologically, I think that could do a fair bit for them, knowing that you know they can go up there when it's a bit of a bear pit, and they can come away with a win.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, Warrington, of course, being accused of sort of having a bit of a soft underbelly and not being able to do it when it quite counts over recent seasons. But have you noticed a change in the side under Sam Burgess?
100%, yeah. I think there was a lot of psychological baggage around Warrington coming into this year that Sam Burgess had to sort of drill down into and get rid of. You know, for instance, coming into this year, they hadn't beaten Saints or Wigan since 2021. They've done that and some. Obviously, they beat Saints 4 times this year, and they absolutely hammered Wigan away from home. I think they may have been the only side to beat Wigan at the Brick Community Stadium this year, which is a real feather in their cap. They haven't won a playoff game since 2018. They've gone out in the eliminators in the 4 sort of playoff campaigns they'd had since then, and they managed to get over that hurdle as well. So obviously there's the one big one left, which is finally getting that elusive grand final win. And if they were to shake that off their backs, then obviously that would be monumental. But there's certainly a difference. I think you can sort of see in the way that they came through Saturday's game. You know, previously 12 points down, not playing particularly well. They'd have probably folded in recent years, but they didn't. They stayed calm and struck back and managed to get the win. And I think that's probably development from even earlier in the year, because no doubt you'll have watched the Challenge Cup final when they were in a very similar position. I think in terms of the scoreboard, they were 10 points down and they weren't playing at all well. And they went and chased the game, and they kind of got lost. They were a bit rabbit in the headlights, really, at Wembley. But the other day, they kind of stayed calm and stuck to the process, and in the faith that their chances would come. And that's what happened in the end. So it shows that, there has been real growth and a real change in this Warrington squad. Yeah,
based on that, then, Matt, are you surprised that Sam Burgess isn't joining Willie Peters in the running for Coach of the Year?
I think surprise is an understatement, Johno. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that he's not in there. I mean, I know it's a coach nominated thing, so they can be unpredictable. But I think whether he'd win it or not, I'm not too sure. I think you have to look at Willie Peters and the job he's done. Paul Rowley too keeps getting a gallon out of the pipe. I think they'd probably be the two leading contenders in my eyes, anyway. But for him to not even be nominated, given he's taken Warrington from having dramatically collapsed last year, and it's pretty much the same squad, don't forget, to being back challenging for trophies this year in such a short space of time with very little change of personnel. I think he should have at least been nominated. So the fact that he isn't, I'm stunned, to be honest. I'm absolutely stunned.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it, whether he's rubbed somebody up the wrong way. Obviously, it is the coaches who nominate and put that shortlist together. But I think it's not only yourself who's surprised, Matt. I think there's most people had put Sam Burgess in that top four. Eccles, I mean, done a great job under testing circumstances, but it makes a bit of a mockery, doesn't it, when the coach of the bottom place side, no matter what the circumstances, is nominated. But hey, when it's a nomination process like that, it is what it is, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to see who does come out on top once the winner is announced. You mentioned already about Craven Park and the atmosphere, and of course Robin's having a week off. Do you think that week off, it's what I've spoken to other people out, that week off is a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think Warrington would have wanted to have that week off, or to keep that momentum going?
I think that depends if you ask them publicly or privately. I think publicly, I think they were happy to keep rolling and give themselves a bit of a test. But I think privately, there's a lot of bruised bodies in there. I think they'd have loved the chance to put their feet up for a week and watch the other four teams sort of batter the hell out of each other. But I was sort of interested in listening to what Paul Wellens was saying after the game on Saturday. He sort of made reference to the fact that Warrington, in effect, and this is with the greatest of respect to Huddersfield and London, had pretty much had 2 weeks off, where they'd essentially had kind of 2 opposed training sessions in the weeks before. And he thought his side could catch Warrington cold. And they did in that first half. They really did after making a pretty horrible start. So I think that may be the thought process around Warrington this week. If there's any kind of ring rust in the 𝗀𝗂𝗏 side, they need to go after it early and see if they can catch them cold. But it'd have been a chance for 𝗀𝗂𝗏 to rest up and get a few bodies back. I believe there are a few injuries around sort of Niall Evalds and Oliver Gildart. They may have had the chance to sort of fully recover from those to be able to play. So yeah, it could go either way. But I think if you privately asked a lot of Warrington players, I think they'd have liked the week off.
Yeah, and you've mentioned, like I said, Craven Park, and it is going to be a red hot atmosphere, not least because there's over 1,000 Wire fans heading down the M62 on Friday night. Yeah, absolutely. I think tickets sold out. Well, officially the club said they sold out on Monday night, but I think they sold out in the early hours of Sunday. Such was the demand for them, and it was always going to be that way. You always get the grumbles of we need more tickets, but it's 𝗀𝗂𝗏 have played by the rules. They've given Warrington the tickets that they're obliged to give them, and any more would be kind of negating the advantage that they've earned. So it's understandable. You want to make it, you want to take full advantage of home advantage. But the Warrington fans that come down will be loud and proud, and they're going to have to be, because it's going to be red hot in Craven Park. And personally, for me, I do love covering games at Craven Park. I've been there, when 𝗀𝗂𝗏 have not been doing well and they've been down at the bottom of the table. And obviously now I've been there when they've been at the top of the table. Well, one thing you can always guarantee is it'll be noisy and it'll be hostile.
and that's what Warrington have to deal with. But personally, I love being in that kind of atmosphere and covering it. And you know, for a Super League semi-final, it won't get much hotter than this.
No, and obviously, Matt, you're closer to the Warrington fans, much more closer than what I am. And I wonder if there's a slight mindset difference between the two sets of supporters. I mean, I might be wrong, totally wrong here, but I wonder if Warrington lost on Friday night, the supporters would still see the season as being a pretty successful one. Whereas I think if Rovers lost, I think there'd be an air of frustration and disappointment. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you can only see the year as progress. You know, no matter what happens on Friday night, they've got through the stages that the fans expected them to get through. Like, they were expected to beat Saints on Saturday, and they did. I don't think anyone's going to be going up there expecting Warrington to win. They'll be hopeful and maybe in some places confident that they can, but whether they'll expect it, I think would be a bit of a push. There'd obviously be disappointment in the aftermath if they were to lose. But I think in the cold light of day, I think they'll reflect on how far their team and their club have come in the past 12 months under Sam Burgess, and sort of look back with a bit of satisfaction and look forward with plenty of optimism. But I think you're kind of right in what you say about Hull KR, and like you say, you probably have more of a finger on the pulse of the Robins fans than I do. But having come as far as finishing second and got themselves that advantage, I'm sure, no doubt there'll be a bit of a disappointment in that, you know, they've come so far to fail now.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if there's any neutrals watching or listening to this, make sure you're tuning into at least the first 10 minutes of the game, because I think that is going to set the tone for how it's going to go. You know, like you said, Wire may be looking to catch Rovers cold, and obviously the Robins will be looking to lay down a marker and get into Warrington as quickly as they can. So honestly, them opening 10 minutes, I think there'll be fireworks before the game, no doubt, and I expect there to be fireworks as soon as the game kicks off, because these are going to be two teams who've got nothing to lose almost. It is everything on the line. The season is on the line for 80 minutes. I hope it's in 80 minutes and we don't have to go through the trauma of golden point and drop goals and all that kind of stuff, because I'm sure you was at the ground, Matty, on Friday. On Saturday, there was a few nervous Wire fans come 80 minutes.
Oh, not half. I don't think I could go through that again. Never mind any Warrington fans. It was very nerve shredding. But like I said, they came through it in the end. But no, you're right in exactly what you say. It's going to be a real battle, and it's going to be a real treat. The two packs are going to tear into each other. I think 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗏 𝗀's probably been among my favourite players to watch this year. He's been absolutely brilliant for Hull KR in the games that I've seen. And then going the other way, I think Warrington will be looking for Luke Yates to chop him early, like he's done with a couple of key opponents to Warrington since he's been here. He didn't manage to do it at the Halliwell Jones a couple of months ago, and but Warrington will be looking for Luke Yates to kind of make a boy out of 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗏 and Jai Whitbread as well, because he's been very good, and try and get Warrington's pack on top early.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned the pack there, and of course, 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝗏𝗀's counterpart Vaughan been missing for Warrington. How have they countered that?
So while Vaughan's been suspended, they started with Zane Musgrove, who's been coming off the bench for most of the season. And he did pretty well in the 3 games that he started in the regular season. But again, come back to what I said earlier, you've got to look at kind of what was his way, and there wasn't really much. And on Saturday, I think he kind of got badly found out having started. I was quite surprised that they didn't bring Vaughan straight back in to start alongside Luke Yates, and they stuck with Musgrove. But he came off after 15 minutes, and he didn't come back on. He kind of got a bit found out on both sides of the ball in those early stages. So I'd be stunned if Paul Vaughan didn't come back in to start. And I think he's miles better from the start anyway. I think he struggles to get into the game a little bit when he comes off the bench. So I think and I know he personally prefers starting games and getting straight into it. And I think him and Luke Yates are a pretty effective front row partnership.
Yeah, Matt, To you and all the Wire fans travelling down the M62 on Friday night, wish you all a safe journey. Hope you get to enjoy Craven Park, and let's hope it's a real fantastic feast of rugby. James, I mean, you know, we spoke a lot about Warrington there, of course, to get an insight into what the thoughts might be from the rivals' camp. You know, but I think we should be a bit more bullish. You know, Kingston Rovers have been great this season. We played some great rugby league, especially come the back end of the season. We've gone away to Warrington. We've gone away to St Helens. We picked up results where people didn't think we would, because often, you know, time gone by, we haven't picked them up. I think we should be a little bit more bullish. And I'll tell you what, James, when I watched that Warrington St Helens game, I don't think that was a great performance from Warrington. I
agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about they've probably not had that intensity in the, well, what Matt was saying was effectively two opposed training sessions against Huddersfield and London. So they didn't have that intensity. And I think, you know, they got found out by Saints in that first half. I was surprised. You know, I honestly thought Warrington would steamroll the Saints, and particularly when Mackinson knocked on the kickoff and they scored on that first set. I thought, yeah, it's going to be floodgates here, but no, Saints took the game to them, and they looked vulnerable. And I think that's what Rovers need to do on Friday night. You know, we cannot afford a slow start. You know, we just can't, because that's, you know, they're battle hardened now. You know, they've come through an epic, so they'll know they'll probably tire later on in the game. You know, no matter how fit they are, they're going to tire later on because of what happened. You know, they only played on Saturday, so they've had, you know, only 6 days recovery. So they'll want to start fast and put the pressure on Rovers, and Rovers got to handle it. And if we can handle that first 15-20 minutes, I think we'll go on to win. And that is the key for me, that 15-20 minutes. And I think what I'm hoping Rovers have learned from the experiences of the playoff semi last year and the Challenge Cup semi-final this year, when we didn't get good starts. The game was over after 15 minutes, and they've got that in the back memory bank and thinking, we're not going to let it happen again. And I don't think they will.
No, and if you've listened to Tara May and Willie Peters talking press conferences prior to the game on Friday night, they're all singing off the same hymn sheet out there. They don't even really talk about the opposition, talk about what they can do, what they can influence. They're pretty calm, which is unnerving for a Hull Kingston Rovers support. Because we're used to being, let's be honest, I said to my missus, you know, who's coming to the game on Friday, you know, she said, you know, normally we're the underdogs, we're the ones who were almost going at sort of hope. And actually, no, it's a bit different this time. There's a level of expectation, because if we lose, there will be an air of frustration. It won't be, oh, we've had a good season. It'll be, fuck, you know, we could have, what could have been. And I think that's
so close again. Close again.
And I think the team though, and the coaching staff, they're in a place that where maybe supporters were not necessarily at. And I think we've got to just trust where they are. And all I say is, James, on Friday night, you know, the players have got a huge job to do. But I tell you what, the supporters have. They've got to get behind that side. Because there was times against the Leeds game, James, where it went a little bit quiet. It went a little bit. And don't get me wrong, two completely different games. You know, that Leeds game, in reality, we won't. But we need to make that as intimidating, Craven Park as intimidating as possible, in the right way. In the right way, as intimidating as possible for that, for Warrington, to make them know that they're in a game, but also so the Hull Kingston Rovers players know that we are fully behind them, because Willie Peters and the rest of the players have said how important it is playing at home. Well, we need to then follow that up with the support, the noise, the enthusiasm to go with that.
Yeah, no, totally understand that and totally agree with that. I think, as you said, that Leeds game, I think there was an element of anticlimax. I think, you know, we were hoping we were going to be there and go there with a chance, playing that game with a chance of getting the Leader Shield. That obviously was taken away from us on the Thursday night. So I think, you know, as I said earlier, I think the team on that game, there was a bit of fatigue coming through. You know, there was the anticlimax, but that's now gone. You know, we've got that out of the system. Came good in the second half. We've had that week's rest. As Matt said, you know, we're getting the likes of Evans back. We're getting 𝘀𝗂𝗏𝗏 back, hopefully. So we're going to be at full strength. There ain't going to be any excuses, none whatsoever. If they come out at 8 o'clock on Friday night, play to their full potential, and play as they've been playing all this season, then we'll go on and win. Yeah, I think we'll look back and we knew we were going to have a tough run into the season. You know, you go to the likes of Warrington, Saints, Wigan, Leigh, to basically get you as high as possible in the league, and the only one we lost was at Wigan, and that was, you know, the circumstances around that. We could take lots of things, positive things out of that game as well. But that game at Warrington, when we beat them 22-4, I think that got that monkey off our back about not being able to win outside of Yorkshire. And since then, we've not looked back, and it's been a completely different team. We've always wanted an 80-minute game. You know, we've had 80-minute games really from that game onwards, and we need another one on Friday night, and we'll get it. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, and I mean, the squad's been announced today. Elliot James, pretty much full strength squad announced. Obviously, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏's not really giving much away in terms of the injury status of Niall Evalds, for example, Oliver Gildart, who missed out previously. You know, and we won't know until that team's announced. We're hoping, aren't we, that we can go into this at full strength. Of course, we know Elliot Manchella will not be playing because of the suspension. I really hope we can go into this at full tilt with our best available, the best team. You know, let's hope we can do that, because I think Warrington obviously they might be a little bit battered and bruised. Like, you know, when we spoke to Matt from the Warrington Guardian, they're battered and bruised. We don't know where they are, because they might have players who are carrying knocks, etc., etc. You know, obviously the big question mark is around who plays that loose forward, with Elliot Manchella not available. I think Hadley did a good job against Leeds. You know, he moved the ball on. He didn't make the meeting he did when he plays prop or second row, but obviously the loose forward role is a different role. I mean, he still came up with 50, I think it was 50 odd tackles against, which is phenomenal. You know, let's just phenomenal. But he seems to move the ball on quite well. I think Hadley's the natural player just to move there. When you look at the options around the forwards in terms of having Batchelor, Staunton, Whitbread, Sue, Luckley, Tanganoa, Brown, King, you know. I think Hadley at loose forward seems the obvious choice.
It seems the obvious one, and he probably will go with that. But I've been thinking, would Staunton be an option there? Because I think he's played there before at loose forward, and I think the last few games he's certainly been created, he's been set a couple of 2 or 3 tries up. I think the try that I think Mikey Lewis first one at Leigh, you know, when he set up that with sidestep, had his head taken off by 𝘂𝗏𝗏𝗏 and set the try up. I thought it was just sublime. And I think the game before he just like glided through as well and set another try up. So we know he's a solid player, but whoever plays there, you know, they're gonna be great. And you know, I think, like I said, Hadley's probably the obvious one, because he's just doing well. Dean just does Dino stuff, doesn't he? And
Brad Fox, who was watching on YouTube, he sort of posed that question there, which probably brings us to James, an ever increasing and popular part of the Robin Pod now, which is question time. Right, I need to dig out these questions, James, because they're varied and some are in more detail than others. We'll start off over on X with God. Here you go, James. How many years do you think Mikey and Willie have got left in Super League?
Oh God.
I suppose that's an open question because there's no definitive answer, is there? But I suppose, in my opinion, James, the more times that they get nominated for Man of Steel, win it, the more times that Willie Peters gets nominated for Coach of the Year, the more times that NRL head coaches get sacked, and questions are going to be, we saw with Brisbane sat their head coach Walters, and then obviously Maguire appointed, and it's all. Do you know what? I think for me, if Willie Peters and Michael Lewis are getting linked to the NRL, it's because they're doing something good.
Yeah, it is. I think for me, we just enjoy the moment. We've got them. I think from a Willie Peters perspective, if he's going to go to the NRL, I think for him to sort of go to that head coach role in the NRL, he's got to have a trophy under his belt, and that's league leaders, grand final. Yeah, that's it. I think it'd be interesting if Willie Peters does go, whether Mikey would go with him. That's the interesting thing. I think was he here signed till 2027, Mikey? Yeah. So I know it's late signed, but if an NRL club comes knocking with loads of dollars, they're going to consider it out. But as you said, the fact that we have players and a coach who are linked with the NRL, I think it just shows, the quality of those two people.
Yeah.
And if they go, good luck. Nothing but the best wishes. But let's enjoy the moment while we've got them.
Yeah, well, that's hopefully way down the track.
Yeah.
Adam on X, he says, is Tom Davis going to give us the impact we need, replacing Hawley? Obviously, Ryan Hall departing to go to Leeds. I don't know. I suppose, when we talk about the evolution of the Robins, I suppose the game's going to change because I don't think Tom Davis will do what Ryan Hall does.
No,
but
Ryan Hall.
I think there's lots of things that Tom Davis does that Ryan Hall probably doesn't do now. So I don't know. It's all in the books. I think I think one thing is that I think in the recruitment they've got, in the time Willie Peters has been here, he hasn't got many wrong. And I think Tom. I've always been a fan of Tom Davis. I think he's a great player, got great pace. I think he's solid defensively. Also, he was going to play an outside with Oliver Gildart, who he's obviously played with at Wigan, so they'll have that connection anyway. So, we'll just wait. We'll just see how it goes. Yeah, Adam also he asked a question, and this is I sent you this one before. The best two teams have been clearly Wigan and KR this year, but what would be the best combined fate team, James? And this is one way I suppose we've got to take off our Rovers tinted spectacles a little bit, haven't we? Because Wigan have been, good this season. You can't deny what they've done.
You can't, no, you can't.
And they have got some fantastic players in their team.
Yeah, they have. I've had a go.
Go on then, you read it out while I put my charger on.
Trying to be unbiased. I've managed to sort of get 5 Wigan players into it. So I'd gone with Evells, Burgess, Hiku, Wardle, Marshall. That was quite a hard one between Marshall and Hall. French, Lewis, Sue, Parcell, Thompson, Hadley, Nasemba, and Minchella. And then I looked at the players who have missed out, and I thought, that's not a bad side either.
Yeah, well, can you imagine if they played each other?
I know. But you've got people like, you're thinking, you're not picking Field or someone like Miskey, or Lehman or Farrell, and Batchelor, or Kade Ellis. You're thinking, it just showed what quality both clubs have got. And I've obviously sort of biased it towards Rovers because I'm bound to, because I've seen those, the Rovers players more often than I've seen the Wigan players. But
I think you've been very fair. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, some of the others, I think, if Evans at full-back instead of Field, I thought, well, Field, I don't think he's been as good this season as he has been previously. Same with 𝗏𝗂𝗃 on the wing. I think, 𝗏𝗂𝗃 was fantastic last year. Doesn't seem to have reached those heights the same heights this year, whereas Burgess is sort of just becoming like a breath of fresh air for us, He had
one comment about Liam Marshall, and it was, all he does is score tries. Yeah. I'll take that.
People used to say that about Martin Afire. Well, he can't do anything else. All he does is score tries.
Yeah.
Can't defend, and
yeah.
It's got 10 tries in a game once.
As if that's a bad thing.
What to do?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think Marshall's great. I think again, dream team, fully deserved it. You're thinking that's probably the hardest one to choose between Marshall and Hall.
Yeah, James over on Facebook, Bads of Kingston, fresh from his holidays, he's asked, if you was Willie Peters, would you be tempted to play Jez Litton at 13 on Friday? Because we know he can do a job. It's another fantastic play with great ball skills and tackles, anything that comes at him. Would you play Jez Litton at 13, James?
No.
I don't think I would either.
No, I think you're going to need something like Dina there just to sort of, be solid and say get the pass out, tackle anything, and then Litton comes on, early second half, and just as they're tiring, hopefully, and causes havoc.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we don't know, the course of the game, things change, but what you'd say is Jez Litton has been sort of pigeonholed into that disruptor role, coming on with 10 minutes left to go after Matty Parcells sort of done job. But hey, who knows? They might change that game plan. Who knows what they've seen about Warrington when they might change it. But I'd be surprised to see Jez Litton at 13. I think Baz is right in terms of his ball playing ability, but the fact that Dean Hadley came up with 50 odd tackles against, let's be honest, pretty poor Leeds side, means that he's so important in that middle. His defensive work. So hey, let's see what the team news is on Friday, because who knows, it could be completely different to what we think. Paul Nelson, he's asked, how much are you all enjoying the journey? Nervous or excited for Friday? He's put nervited. James, I don't know what. I suppose I'm 50-50 at the moment. What about you?
I'm trying not to think about it, to be honest, because I think if you think about it, you're thinking what happened, and I'll just think about it on Friday, 6:15 when I leave the house. Then I'll get nervous.
Yeah, I suppose I try to liken it to a little bit like a Challenge Cup tie, apart from the final. But you've always got the season to go back on. Whereas now we really do not have anything. This is it.
No, that's it. Yeah,
this is it. It's the difference between next weekend going to Old Trafford and next week going to Asda.
Centre.
That is the difference. So if you're listening, Willie, I'd rather go to Old Trafford.
Same here.
Adam Wadforth, he's on Facebook. He says, are you a fan of the pre-match fireworks that went off in front of East Stand pre-Leeds game, and will it likely be used on Friday? I don't know. I personally think it's a bit gimmicky, plus we couldn't really see anything for a few minutes. The atmosphere will be already red hot and intimidating. I'm a fan. It looks great. And also we're playing to the TV audience, aren't we? And that's the whole thing around Rovers at the moment is about it being much more than what happens on the pitch. It's about the whole, I don't know, the spectacle, and for me, if I have to miss a minute because the fireworks show, whatever, I don't know. I think we've got to suck it up a little bit. But I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying. I think, I mean, I'll be honest, I missed it against the Leeds game because I've missed the first 10 minutes because I was coming back from Dublin with work and my flight was delayed.
Hey, James, did you know Dublin's the biggest city in the world?
Is it?
Yeah, because it keeps doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. There you go.
Don't give it the day job, Chris.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, I think
there's no can. That's why they play the can laughter.
Yeah. I think it's you're right. It adds to the atmosphere and just builds it up as a TV audience, and I think really reinforces that it's not just a rugby game; it's an event, you know. And when you have that sort of thing, that sort of activity before games, it's the sort of thing people want to be part of.
Yeah,
be there for.
And there's two really tough questions here now, James, and I'll save the toughest one till last because I forgot to send you this one actually.
Thanks.
The first one is this season considered a success regardless of what happens from here? So basically, if we lose, would it still be considered a success?
I think the fact that we'd got a highest league position, Super League position, and highest ever average attendance, I think yes. But you have to counter that by saying, well, then last year we got to a cup final and a semi-final. This year we'll have got to 2 semi-finals.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of progress, yeah, it's a success. If we talk about the club evolving and developing and on and off the pitch, then yeah, you've got to say it's a success. What that obviously then brings as well, I think it's something we spoke about pre-season, was that expectation levels become higher. So next season you're suddenly thinking you have to be winning a trophy if you don't win one this year.
And I think, James, as well, you've got to consider the fact that Willie Peters, people at the club, they're not talking us down.
No.
So, and this is what we said earlier about we're not like the plucky underdog anymore.
No.
There's an expectation of, with the level of investment, the expectations around the club, we should be here. Mm-hmm. And like you just said there, but what comes with that is an expectation of, we should be. And I spoke to, this is what we spoke last week, on last week's Robin Pod about Rovers are a different beast now. Yeah. Competing's almost not enough because we competed before and we sometimes competed more or better than what we should have done.
Yeah.
But now there's a level of investment. But that said, we can't become too expectant because sport is what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The game is what it is.
Yeah. I think one of the big differences this season is whereas I think in the previous season we were able to sort of reach the heights sporadically and occasionally for short periods of time. This year we've been able to maintain a high level more consistently, which is what, if you look at the top teams of the years gone by, that's what they've done. They've been able to sort of grind out wins, which we have done this season when they've not been playing very well. Go back to that game at Castleford when we won 13-12 thanks to Jez's drop goal 5 minutes from the end. We were awful that night, but somehow we managed to dig out a victory. And then you look back and think, well, actually, we didn't win that. We wouldn't have finished second. So it's those little things that at the time don't seem important, but you look back on the whole season and think, yeah, that turned out to be a pretty good result in the end. Yeah. And so it's been able to maintain that for a consistent level. It's hard. Even the teams like Wigan have fall off the horses occasionally, and that's inevitable. It's sport. That's what happens. But yeah, it's been able to maintain that level consistently throughout. From as best as possible from round 1 through to the back end of the season, and that's where the expectation is going to come in, I think.
Yeah, Mike Morton on YouTube, he's gone back to the fireworks, which is always a hot topic, isn't it? Fireworks. I hope for more fireworks after the game. That's probably going to come from the Warrington fans if they lose, if we're honest.
They're a bit upset, aren't they?
Yeah. We haven't even touched on that. I can't be asked. Absolute nonsense. Last question, James, and it's a tough one. If you had to pick one former player to start on Friday night, who would it be?
I did actually see this on Facebook.
Good. Go then.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think about it, and I went for Gavin Miller.
Oh, really?
Because he'd slot straight into, he'd solved the loose forward issue with Minchella not playing.
It's a great answer, isn't it? I don't think I can top that. I was thinking about it. I was thinking who would be good in that. But do you know what? That's a logical answer, isn't it? I'm not even going to bother answering that one because I think that's a top answer. James, we're in the lap of the gods to some extent, but I don't think we are because I think seasons gone by, we would have been in the lap of the gods. We would have been hoping. And I think, I've got full faith in Willie Peters and these players that that they've got a plan and that they're going to execute it. And if for whatever reason it falls short, I don't think it'll be because of Rovers. I think it'll be due to extenuating circumstances. But I don't know. I think despite that though, James, having that air of confidence, we do need to make sure that we play our part as supporters. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fantastic.
More as Willie Peters said in his conference, needs us, needs the supporters. We've been great all season. On Friday night, the need us from minute 1 to minute 80.
Yeah, and if you go into the game, please make sure that you are loud and proud. Of course, the Robin Pod Weekly is powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre. I'm hoping for a few more editions of the Robin Pod Weekly. Hopefully, one in the lead up to going to Old Trafford. Who knows what's going to happen on Friday night? But like we've already talked about, you've got the opportunity to play your part. Be there, be loud, be proud, be Hull Kingston Rovers. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.